What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. I decided to take a little off season of my own while we've been in the midst of the real dead part of the off season. I feel like this time of year is always the most difficult to get through as an NHL fan. There's really not a whole lot going on. Free agency has really died down. Signings are few and far between. You get extensions and stuff like that here and there, but for the most part, not a whole lot of newsworthy things going on. So this is usually around the time where I start to make videos where we look ahead towards next season. So today I'm going to give you guys my list of players that I feel like are poised to have big breakthrough seasons in 2023-24. This is a video that I've made pretty much every offseason since I've been consistently uploading on the channel. Pretty happy with how last year's video went. I had Filip Zadina, Owen Tippett, and Alex Tuch in that video. All three of those guys had career years. As always, I want to know your guys' thoughts, so let me know your list of players that you feel like are going to break out next season down below in the comments. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first player, Alex Newhook. This is a player that I actually had in last year's Breakout Players video as well. We're running it back again this year. Newhook is a player that I really believe in. Last season didn't really go as I expected it to for Newhook. I wouldn't say he was bad by any means, but a little bit of a drop in production from his rookie season. With all the depth that the Colorado Avalanche lost last offseason, the injuries that plagued the team this past season, factoring in both of those things, I really thought Newhook was going to be a guy that would step up, get a top 6 role, potentially even fill in as that number 2 center. And there were certainly times throughout the season where Newhook was given the opportunity to play up in the lineup, get a sizable role, but he was just never really able to take those opportunities and run with them. As we all know, Newhook was dealt to the Montreal Canadiens earlier this summer, right before the NHL draft, for a first and second round pick. And I'm really excited to see what Alex Newhook is going to be able to do with this new opportunity. I would not be surprised to see him finish with, maybe around 20 to 25 goals and 55 to 60 points. He has the skill. He's going to a team in Montreal with a lot less pressure on them than the Colorado Avalanche. You have to imagine he's going to have a lot longer of a leash in Montreal, play a lot higher in the lineup than where he would have played in Colorado. I think Newhook is going to fit in beautifully with the young core that the Montreal Canadiens already have in place, including the likes of Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Yuri Slafkovsky, Kirby Dach. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch. Moving along now to the next player, we have Morgan Geeky, who signed a 2-year, $4 million deal with the Boston Bruins earlier this summer, an AAV of $2 million. Geeky is coming off of the strongest season in his NHL career to date with the Seattle Kraken. In 69 games, he had 9 goals, 19 assists for 28 points while playing just fourth line minutes. Wasn't somebody who really factored into either of the Seattle Kraken special teams. Geeky is somebody with solid play driving numbers, a decent playmaker. He can play center or the wing. You have to imagine he's going to play center in Boston when you consider the fact that Patrice Bergeron retired and, David Krejci's future is still up in the air. I feel like with Bergeron retiring, the writing is kind of on the wall for David Krejci as well. I don't see him coming back to the NHL. So when you look at Boston's center depth heading into next season, as of right now, you got Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, and then I would say Morgan Geeky is probably third on the depth chart. Prior to becoming a full-time NHLer, Morgan Geeky was putting up pretty big numbers in the AHL. His final couple seasons in junior with the Tri-City Americans, he was explosive offensively, so the offensive talent we know is there. I would not be surprised to see Morgan Geeky score, in the 15-goal range and be a half-point per game player this season for the Boston Bruins. Next up on my list of breakout player picks, we have Tyler Bertuzzi, who signed a 1-year, $5.5 million deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Bertuzzi is definitely an outlier when it comes to this video in the sense that he's a lot older than the majority of the other players we're going to talk about, and he is already an established top 6 winger. Bertuzzi is a former NHL All-Star, a 3-time 20-plus goal scorer, a 1-time 30-plus goal scorer, so you might be asking, how can a player that's already that established, have a breakout season? Well, when it comes to Tyler Bertuzzi, I feel like there's definitely still another gear that this guy can get to. I think he can take a leap from being, like I said, an established legit top 6 winger to being a top line guy, a star player. And what better situation to maybe unlock that version of Tyler Bertuzzi than Toronto, where he's potentially going to be playing on a line with somebody like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. I think a lot of it's going to come down to Tyler Bertuzzi's health. Over the past 3 seasons, he's really struggled to stay on the ice. But if Bertuzzi can stick on the Maple Leafs top line, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to keep up with those players, this is a guy who's been, a mainstay on the Red Wings top line when he's been healthy healthy for the past 3-4 seasons now. In 2021-22, he had 62 points in just 68 games on a very bad Red Wings team. If Bertuzzi stays healthy and can suit up for, 70 plus games for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season, I would not be surprised whatsoever to see him shatter his previous career highs and be a guy in that 80 to 85 point range. And if that happens, him signing a 1-year deal with the Maple Leafs is going to look genius. It would definitely set him up for a massive payday next summer. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Anthony Beauvillier of the Vancouver Canucks, who obviously got there as part of the Bo Horvat trade to the New York Islanders. A couple off seasons ago, Anthony Beauvillier is a guy that I had in one of these breakout player videos. This is somebody who I feel like we've all kind of been waiting for him to hit that next level. He's a former first-round pick from 2015, scored 21 goals as a sophomore with the New York Islanders in 2017-18, but he's never really been able to take that next step and kind of get out of that 15 to 20 goal range and 30 to 40 point range. And it's not like there's anything wrong with that, even if Beauvillier is consistently, a 15 to 20 goal, 35 to 40 point guy throughout his career. That's still, a quality middle six winger, but I do really feel like there's more there when it comes to Anthony Beauvillier. And based on what we've seen this past season to finish out the year after he was traded to the Vancouver Canucks, I think he's poised to have a career year this upcoming season. In 33 games with the Vancouver Canucks after the Bo Horvat trade, he had 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points, had some nice chemistry with Andrei Kuzmenko and Elias Pettersson. It looked like that line was just kind of a natural fit together. If that line sticks heading into next season, I am really intrigued to see what Anthony Beauvillier is going to be able to do, playing a full season on a line with somebody as talented as Elias Pettersson. I would not be surprised at all to see Anthony Beauvillier have a 30-30 season with Vancouver, break the 30 goal mark for the first time in his career, put up 60 plus points. This is a guy who I think has the skill, has the finishing ability, and I believe Vancouver's a really good situation for him. Moving along now to the next player, we have the one and only defenseman on my list, Rasmus Sandin of the Washington Capitals, a former first-round draft pick by the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2018, and he's somebody that I feel like did a more than serviceable job playing sheltered minutes in Toronto whenever he got the opportunity to step into the lineup. For the most part, always put up very promising underlying numbers and had 20 points in 52 games with the Maple Leafs this past season before the trade, but with the logjam they had on the blue line. And I feel like also with Kyle Dubas wanting to get a first-round draft pick back after spending a ton of future assets on the Jake McCabe and Ryan O'Reilly trades, that's all kind of what led to Sandin being sent to the Capitals. And after the trade to Washington, Rasmus Sandin exploded in the 19 games he played for the Capitals after the deadline. Obviously, he was given a much bigger role. He went from averaging under 18 minutes of ice time per game in Toronto to about 23 minutes of ice time per game in Washington. But man, he was producing 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points in 19 games. He looked more than comfortable running the Washington Capitals' #1 power play unit. His defensive numbers and metrics definitely took a little bit of a hit, but when you throw a guy from playing sheltered minutes in Toronto to playing, top #1 defenseman minutes in Washington, a much worse Washington team, that's kind of to be expected. Now, in terms of his offensive numbers, I don't think he's going to be able to keep up the pace he was scoring at with the Capitals after the deadline for a full season, especially with John Carlson coming back from injury. You have to imagine Carlson's going to be the guy quarterbacking that top power play unit. But still, when you look at the Capitals depth chart, Rasmus Sandin is a guy who I think is going to be a staple in their top 4, be a guy who plays over 20 minutes a night, is likely going to be the person running that second power play unit. I'm really intrigued to see what Sandin is going to be able to accomplish in a full season with the Washington Capitals in a much bigger role than he's ever had in a full season up until this point in his career. I would honestly be surprised if he doesn't have a career year. Continuing on now, next up on my list, we have Filip Zadina, a former 6th overall draft pick in 2018 by the Detroit Red Wings. Zadina was quite the story this offseason. He obviously bet on himself in a big way, agreeing to terminate the remainder of his contract in Detroit to become an unrestricted free agent, leaving millions of dollars on the table despite the fact that he's not an established NHLer up until this point. But it was clear that Filip Zadina was dead set on getting a change of scenery. Steve Yzerman wasn't able to find a trade partner. Zadina cleared waivers, nobody claimed him, so this was kind of his only option if what he wanted was really a change of scenery. He gets an opportunity now to go to a team in San Jose who have little to zero expectations in terms of actually being good this season. I feel like San Jose is going to give this guy all the opportunity in the world to at the very least secure secure a top 9 role. And at this point, it's kind of just up to Filip Zadina to take an opportunity and run with it. Although it didn't work out in Detroit, there was definitely flashes and stretches of play where you'd see the skill. You would see, glimpses of the player in there who was selected 6th overall. Do I ever think he's going to live up to where he was selected? No, but I really want to believe that this is a guy who can be, a decent middle 6 winger who puts up, 40 to 45 points in a season. I think that's still achievable at this point in Zadina's career. I'm rooting for him. I'm not one of those fans that, wish a player the worst once he leaves my favorite team. I want to see him succeed, and I hope him betting on himself here pays off. And now finally finishing out the video with the final player on my list. I feel like this one's kind of a shoo-in, Anton Lundell of the Florida Panthers. The Panthers' 12th overall pick from 2020 obviously came in as a rookie in 21-22 and was fantastic. 44 points in 65 games, a very responsible 200-foot center already at such a young age. Expectations for Lundell heading into year 2 were sky high, and it's not like he was bad or anything, still a really productive and useful player for the Florida Panthers, but I would say, this past season for Lundell would qualify as a sophomore slump. He saw an increase in ice time, but in more games, had 11 less points than his rookie season, still solid defensive metrics, but didn't really have the monster year 2 that I feel like a lot of people were expecting. I think we're going to see that monster year from Anton Lundell, though, in year 3. I feel like the Florida Panthers are also banking on him taking, a pretty big leap in his progression. They've definitely had an interesting offseason. I feel like at this point, it's hard to say if they got better or worse, but to me, Lundell has all the makings in the world of becoming a star, and I don't think he's the kind of player that we're going to have to wait very long for him to develop into that star either. I think we're going to see him take strides towards that this season. I think he's in for a big year. So that is going to wrap up today's video. That is my list of players that I think will have a breakout season in 2023-24. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I always want to know what you guys are thinking, so let me know what your list would look like down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support, and most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.